Hey everybody, it's Doug Munro, and today we're going to look at Latin rhythms for guitar. I'm going to show you 6 different styles and some classic grooves that are, rhythmic grooves that are played on these styles. So let's jump right in. Bossa Nova. I'm going to play B flat major 7, root on the 5th string. So I have the root, major 7, 3rd, and 5. I use hybrid picking. You can use fingers, you can strum, whatever you like. I'll leave the right hand up to you, but I'm using a hybrid style picking for these examples. That's what I'm most used to and comfortable with. All right, so let me click on the old metronome, and here's just a straight up bossa nova style, really in the style of, say, Antonio Carlos Jobim. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then another way of doing the bossa nova, where you can alternate your bass note. I'm going to pick a C major 7, root on the 5th string, 1, the root, the 5th, the major 7, and the 3rd. And here's this one. Now, of course, with these, you can mix and match. You can do your own thing with them, but I'm just showing you the basic, straight up rhythm style. And as you can notice and see and hear, these rhythms are 2 bars long, 2 bars long. Now I'm going to move on to Samba, and in particular, partito, alto. And here I'm going to be using a major 7, I guess you'd call it a rootless chord, because it's just going to be the major 7, the 3rd, and the 5th, and I'm going to switch to the 6th, the 9th, and the 5th. So these are the 2 A chord shapes, and I'm going to give you a little open A string, just so you could hear that A sound, you know. It's going to be like that. It's helpful to clap out these rhythms too. So if you look at the rhythm and just don't even play the notes, you get bop, 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 and just the rhythm itself basically shows you what notes are sort of accented and which ones aren't. And it's a really pretty sound, and I'll show it to you here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, samba is usually played a bit faster than bossa nova, although anything goes. So I'm doing these at a tempo that I think you could hear and integrate. And again, my tempo is set at quarter note is at 120. So now let's move on to some Afro-Cuban styles. And first thing we're going to look at is salsa music. And salsa is just basically dance music, as all these Latin rhythms are. So when you're playing, if people ain't dancing, you're doing something wrong. So remember, this is all dance music. So when you think of tempos, think of the dances that go with this music, whether it be, cha-cha or whatever. I'm always thinking of the tempo that's appropriate for the style that you're playing, and also the song that you're playing, because some songs just don't sound good super fast. Maybe there's a lot of melody lines and you can't get them out fast tempo, so it sounds better at a slow tempo. Also the words of the song, the lyrics, what the song is about. So tempos are very important, and keeping the idea of that everything is danceable is also super important. Now with the Afro-Cuban, we're going to deal heavily with clave, 2-3, 3-2, and just like with our Brazilian songs Brazilian styles that we just looked at, the bossa nova and the samba, these rhythms are 2 bars long. So these 2 examples that we're going to look at are 2-3 clave. So there's 2 beats of the clave in the first measure and 3 beats in the second measure. So it sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4. So one side of the clave is right on the beat, right? 1, boom, boom. The second half of the clave, the 2-3 clave, is more syncopated. 1, ba, There's your syncopated part. When you are listening to music and you're trying to figure out what the clave is, I was taught that the quick way to figure out if it's a 2-3 or a 3-2 is listening to the melody. And the syncopated side of the melody is usually the 3 side of the clave. All right? Oye como va. The first measure is very much on the beat. Da 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 da. Syncopated. Boo-dee da in. Syncopated. Boo-da. 2-3 clave. All right? And yeah, cool. So let's do it. First, we're going to take a look at salsa. And I'm just going to be going back and forth from a G minor 7 to a C9. And again, these are what they call now rootless chords, all right, which we used to call inversions of chords. But I like the idea of rootless chords where there's no bass note. We're going to be playing G and C, but we're never going to be playing the notes G or C. But the chords come from these chords: the G minor 7 and the C minor 7. I mean C9. So we get G minor, C9, and we're just playing on the G minor. We're playing the 7th, the flat 3rd, and the 5th. And if we just lower the 7, it goes to the 3rd of the C9 chord, and we get 3, 7, 9. It's very important to know the functions of the chord you're on. It helps you just to figure out chords that would be like, just say, for example, G minor 7, sharp 5. C9, flat 9. So knowing what these notes are in your chords, super, super important, knowing their harmonic function. But that's not what we're doing here today. We're doing salsa rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, M. Makes you want to move. Right out of the Tito Puente playbook. And speaking of Tito Puente, he wrote that great song, Oye Como Va, made famous by Carlos Santana, with this exact rhythm. Same 2 chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So there's 2 killer rhythms. You go on a date, a playing date, not like a date with a girlfriend, but it could work playing for your girlfriend. But if you're sitting in with a band and they call a cha-cha or a salsa or any Afro-Cuban thing and you're laying that kind of stuff down, everybody's going to be happy because it's going to be in the style. You're not going to be playing bossa nova over a 2-3 clave. Just like you're not going to play a salsa rhythm on a bossa nova. It's a mess. Okay. So let's take a look at Montuno. So now Montuno is much more single line than chord, although you're outlining chords, but it's based off of an instrument called the trace, which is a small basically it has 6 strings, but it's just 3 different tones. And the first string is like a 12-string guitar tuned exactly the same. The next 2 strings are an octave apart. And that's what we strive for when we're trying to get these kind of sounds. And our 3 chords here are going to be G minor, straight up, Stairway to Heaven, but G minor. And then if we just add our E flat, we get an E flat major. Now we're going to go down, and we're getting our 5 chord in G minor, D, and then back. So it's really just these 3 chords. One, two, here we go. 3, 4. So those are cool, huh? Nice. So now we're going to take a look at Bolero. Now, Bolero can be sort of Afro-Cuban, definitely does Bolero. Straight up, sort of like Spanish music has Bolero. And various cultures have sort of absorbed this Bolero style. So I'm not really 100% sure on who sort of lays claim to it. But Bolero is just, again, it's a slower kind of music, and it has a lot to do with the bass, where the bass is going. This is very important. It's sort of like the basis of the whole thing. Let's see, what do I have? D minor 11 to G minor 7. So that's that first example. So my D minor 11 is all stacked fourths starting on D. It's D, G, C, and F. I personally like the sound of that. You could play like this. The root, the third, the 7, and another third, or you could play the old bar chord way, root, 5th, 7th, 3rd. I like this sound, and my old arthritic fingers love to play this. It doesn't hurt them. And I'm alternating 1 and 5 on both chords. 1, 5, 1, 5, and then here's my G minor 7, and again, I don't play it like this. I mean, you could. I just don't, for many reasons. One of the main reasons is I get a very clear sound here. I don't really feel I need to have I just don't really feel I need to have that. I like having the big spread. I like the root, and then the flat 7 is sort of a nice, what they call shell voicing, root, flat 7, 3rd, and 5th on top. And so then when I go for my 5th, I literally change my fingering. And for me, I do this so I get it clean. Again, with my fingers, as I age, I feel like I'm not really that. I guess I'm okay doing that, but I feel much stronger doing it this way. So it might look a little awkward, and you could do it however you want. So now let me throw on the old metronome. This is like a little fast. I think I'm going to put this down to 100. Yeah, let's try that. 1, 2, 3, 4. That this rhythm is only 1 bar long. It's not 2 bars long, 1 bar long. Boom, 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 boom. And here's a little fancier version where we add a 16th note triplet. String guitar with the pick, it's a little hard to pull off because, the strings are looser. When I do it on my gypsy style or acoustic guitar or electric guitar with 13s, it's much easier to do because the strings, have less give. I feel like when I'm doing this, I feel they're like rubbery underneath, but I can still kind of do it, and I'll demonstrate it. So it's the same rhythm. It's still... adding this triplet. There it is. There you go. So we have one more style to look at, and it is Calypso. Now, if you're sort of a jazz guy, you're going to be like, when am I ever going to use Calypso? And I would say St. Thomas. There you go. There's one song by Sonny Rollins that's definitely a Calypso feel. And the sort of traditional Calypso is very much a strumming style of guitar that almost doesn't lend itself to the more sort of up-tempo Calypso stuff we find in jazz. But I want to take you through sort of like this progression of what the traditional Calypso sounds like and kind of what we've adapted to the like modern sort of jazz fusion Calypso combination. So basically, let's see, what chords am I going to use? So I'm basically going to be using the chords from St. Thomas. C major 7 in root position. A shell voicing for A7, which is the root, the flat 7, and the 3rd. And if you notice, I play that with my 2nd finger because when I go to the shell voicing for the D minor, it's exactly the same. The root, flat 7, flat 3rd. And the same thing for the G. So my finger movement, again, is very minimal. So they're basically strumming and just relieving their fingers off the neck to get the spacings. And that's it. Another thing that they do, again, still just strumming, but now they don't play like beat 1. Oh, I should have done that with the metronome. I'm going to back up and do the first one again with the metronome so you can see this. 1, 2, 3, 4. folk sounding, very folk music of that country sounding. Now, they'll also do a thing where they don't play beat one or beat three. 1, 2, 3, 4. A little more hip. Yeah. That's nice. I kind of like that one. If I had to pick one of the two, I like the slightly more modern one. The problem is that if you go and play a song like St. Thomas is at about, so say, I don't know, I'm gonna go at like 170. You know, even that seems slow, right? So I'm gonna go up. I'm so used to doing it with a half note, not really sure what to put it on here. Here's 180, so that would be like, to me, 90 with a half note. So now, if we were playing this with the first two rhythms, see how frantic this would be. Or kind of reminds me almost more of like ska, type. So what we've done, not me, but the more modern guys, when they started getting up into these tempos, they started simplifying that rhythm. And so my last example is showing the same chords, but I'm just playing beat one and the and of two. So now at this tempo, I have my C major 7, same voicings, but now it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Sorry. Then. So that's why I showed you the three different sort of forms of Calypso. And you're free to use any one that you like. For me personally, I like this. So then when we're playing the song, I don't feel like I'm frantic. Right? So there you have it, a bunch of Latin rhythms for you to fool around with, learn, and listen to the records, check out recordings. There's so many great recordings. I mean, for the Brazilian, of course, Antonio Carlos Jobim, Louis Bonfi, he has a great record called Live in Rio. I think it's from 1959-ish. Amazing record. I mean, like, it's a study in Brazilian guitar. More modern Brazilian players, Trio de Paz, with Romero Labambo, who's fantastic. I've seen him play live and met him. Super great guy, unbelievable player and composer. His whole band is just off the charts. So more, contemporary guy to check out. Of course, for the Afro-Cuban, I mean, you got to go with my man Tito Puente is one of the big ones. If you want to see the jazz influence, check out the stuff that, like Dizzy Gillespie, he brought a lot of Afro-Cuban guys to New York. And yeah, I mean, you could, check that out. For Bolero, I like a lot of the, sort of straight up Spanish players for that. And also there's some nice gypsy boleros that you could check out. And Calypso, really, I would say that would be, for me personally, the hardest one to recommend you to check out. Of course, the Sonny Rollins stuff, and you can always search it, Calypso guitar. But I think when you search it, you're going to find a lot of traditional folk stuff. So it's a little, to me, it's a little bit more of a search to find Calypso embedded in sort of the jazz or more contemporary music language. But it's there, and I guess that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this. There is going to be a chart attached to this with tablature. And again, I always say start by learning it exactly and memorize it before you put on the metronome and try and play with the metronome. It's so much easier to play if you're not looking at the page. So memorize, and if you don't like the fingerings I have, come up with your own. And then put on the metronome nice and slow and build it up. Then find some records that have these rhythms, learn those songs, and play along with those songs. And you'll just keep learning and growing and feeling more comfortable in this style. And then you could bring it into any songs that you play. You'd be surprised where you could throw this stuff in. And it's a lot of fun. All right, that's it. Until next time, peace.